Know what to eat, but find yourself not eating it. Perhaps you've been on diets and off again and just wonder why you can't stick to them. The Eating For You podcast, hosted by me, Sally Ann Pisk, will show you what's been missing so you can enjoy a healthier way of eating that lasts. Hi, Sally Ann here today, and it's my pleasure to welcome back Carol. Welcome, Carol.
Hi, Sally Ann.
Yes, I was just looking at my records. I think it's been about 18 months, or nearly 18 months since you finished your program with us.
Yes, and it's been really the most valuable thing I've ever done, I think.
Yes. And what was it about your experience that helped you, and to judge it as being valuable, I suppose?
Well, I guess initially I was so shocked at the information that I didn't know, that was, factual information that you were providing me, that I just, I'd gotten to 68 years old and didn't have a clue about a lot of things. And
Yes.
so for me, it required me to be very honest with myself,
Yes.
take stock of everything I was doing, because I was, quite a lot overweight at that time and really struggling to be the healthy person I wanted to be. The weight was one thing, but I actually really wanted to be a healthy version of me. And so with your help, and I remember the very first phone conversation that we had, and you just threw up, sorry.
No, you're right.
Threw up real insights into me that I hadn't even been aware of. So that was very helpful for me. And I'd say that the program overall was very empowering as well as being excellent.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. In terms of the program, do you feel that it's changed the way you think and feel about food?
Oh, definitely. I really had to change what I ate, when I ate it, and my whole relationship with food, because I'd grown up with food being a reward.
Yes.
So my mum used to reward us with food, and
Yes.
in turn, I rewarded my children with food. In
Yes.
fact, I'm really ashamed to say, but I used to have on my shopping list bribes when I had small children. Thankfully, neither of them have got major health issues, but it was just I had this really out of whack
I know.
picture
And
of food.
yeah, and it is that language that we use around food, Carol, because the other word that comes up for mums and grandmothers as well is, oh, what treats can I buy,
Yeah. Yeah.
for my little ones?
Mm. Mm.
And a treat doesn't have to be food, but we tend to always associate certain foods with being treats. And
Absolutely.
as you know, from the mindful eating approach, especially how we teach it in the Eating For You programs, it's not that we never eat food just because it tastes good or we want to have that pleasurable experience of eating. It's more about making that conscious choice to do that. But when we're just giving out food unconsciously to others, they're not learning, oh, well, am I hungry? Is this what I really want to do right now? We're just saying,
No.
here's a reward for being such a good child. So, yeah, it is. And I'm glad you raised that, because I think when we look at our past attempts, and me included, at getting our relationship with food right, we tend to just focus on the food. And as you said before, it meant taking a more honest look at your relationship with food and all the influences over why you ate the way you used to eat. Have some of your habits in particular changed that surprised you?
Oh, yes. So one of the things now, I don't buy food that I don't want to eat.
Yeah.
So, if I walk past, and just this morning I walked past Baker's Delight, and the smell that was coming out of that shop was just superb. It just wanted to draw me in. And if I'd gone in, yes, I would have bought, a sticky bun and whatever else. So now I just don't go in, and I just don't buy the chocolate or the chips or whatever. If I don't want to eat them, I don't have them in the house. So
Yeah.
don't buy them,
Yeah.
because it's the sensible thing to do. Yeah,
Do you miss
for me.
those foods, by making that choice not to have them or not going to the bakery? And I
Mm.
was really shaking my head and smiling a lot when you were talking about the smell of a bakery because that's what gets me as well. It's like, oh, fresh bread, I'll go in there and have some of that. But
Yeah.
by making the choice not to have those foods available, are there any feelings that you're missing out or depriving yourself?
Oh, no, no. And I think that was one of the really sound things about the program is that I don't have to miss out. If I really need chocolate, I'm allowed to eat chocolate,
Good.
but I'm mindful about the chocolate. I don't eat a whole block of chocolate anymore.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so that whole thing of practicing mindful eating just really resonated with me.
Yeah.
Because before, if I liked something, I would, eat it. And so, we might buy a whole cheesecake, and with two of us in the house, that could last a week. We don't buy a cheesecake anymore. It's just not necessary. So there's been a lot of adapting our choices to food, but there's also a lot of things well, one of the tricks that you taught more recently was mindful nutrition. And that's been an interesting concept for me too. So if I'm looking at a couple of different things on the table, the mindful nutrition as well as the mindful eating
Yeah.
kicks in.
Yeah.
And I notice that my daughter is particularly good at that.
Yes.
So, all of my bribes in her childhood obviously haven't caused her too much grief, but she can still teach me stuff now
Yes.
about food that I wasn't necessarily mindful of, and I did study food science and nutrition for 2 years as part of my home economics teaching training. So
Yes.
it's not like I never knew anything. It's
Mm.
just that over the years and the habits, all of that
Mm.
just take over sometimes.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the mindful nutrition because there can be a lot of myths and mistruths about mindful eating out there. And, one of the biggest ones is always, oh, well, mindful eating means I can just eat anything I want to anytime. How's that going to improve my health? And, if I want to improve my health, how's mindful eating going to help me because it's got nothing to do with food? Well, they're both wrong, but it's working more with that relationship with food. And of course, we have to have really sound food and nutrition knowledge to eat mindfully and get the health benefits that we're looking for. So there's an overlap there, and that's why, in the eating for you approach, we have the biological drivers for eating, the psychological and emotional drivers. Then, all that dietology information we carry around, unfortunately, a lot of it would be conflicting in some people's minds, but getting that right as well. So we can have really sound, practical, and simple guidance over food and nutrition. And then that whole sociology aspect of eating as well. So when you say, for yourself, you had to step back and look at what was going on and being honest, was there one particular thing that changed for you that's had the biggest impact since adopting mindful eating?
Yes. For me, it was, the late afternoon snacking.
Yes.
If I was at home, I was in the cupboard. When I was at work, I was going to the, snack bar that we had on, our floor. So from about 4 o'clock on, I used to always be starving hungry, which of course I wasn't. I suspect that by that time of the day, I was probably a bit tired and a little bit, over the day. I used to get up before 6 to go to work. So I think it was definitely, boredom, tiredness, or many, many different factors, probably frustration sometimes,
Yeah.
that would encourage me to eat way too much about 4 o'clock.
Yes.
And then we'd have our main meal at night.
Yes.
And it didn't ever work. I don't know how I could have ever imagined it would. So once we both retired, it was really good. We had our main meal in the middle of the day,
Mm.
and then I could have something light for dinner, and
Mm.
I could have it earlier,
Yeah.
but I had my lunch usually a bit later.
Yeah.
So all in all, it kind of panned out very well for me. So
Yeah.
those little tricks about eating more before 2 o'clock,
Yeah.
and then stopping eating. I stop eating at 7,
Yes.
um, and I've found those little tips and tricks so helpful, and I just didn't know them.
No,
Just
no,
didn't know
that's
them.
right. And it's also, and I think this is the thing that is frustrating for many women and men, is that even sometimes they can hear these tips and tricks, but they don't know how to put it into practice for them, because there can be some slight variation between, what's the best time to eat for you compared to me and to somebody else. And so
Mm,
just getting that guidance and support to actually make you feel confident that, yeah, this is something that I can maintain. And, for you, you've been maintaining it, well, probably if we think from when you started in the program, for over 18 months. So that's a very different experience to, doing something and then not being able to maintain it, isn't it?
yeah, and I think it's the methodology of the program that is so
Mm.
helpful.
Yeah.
If we look at adult learning principles, they're all adopted in this program.
Mm.
You've got action learning happening
Yeah.
really well. You've got action learning sets. If we're looking at the typical principles of learning, which are the phone hookups and catch ups and all of those things,
Yeah.
but it's a very supported program.
Mm.
It's a non-judgmental program.
Yeah.
I just think that there are so many things I really loved getting from you, the kind of more definitive or scientific answers to, okay, of all these different milks that are around now, how do I decide if there's a better one for me? And your response was, use them all, try them all. Don't restrict what you're
Yeah.
using. So I
Yeah.
think those kind of things, the support and the fact that the program is so very positive,
Mm.
it is all framed positively. All of those things made such a difference to me. And so for me, it was just easy to get in there, to get on board, and to do it.
No, thanks for feeding that back, Carol, because what you were sharing there are a lot of the facets of mindfulness, in terms of keeping an open mind and being able to observe and taking the judgment out of it, which is a real struggle. I mean, I say it now and it sounds really easy, but we do assess things every minute of the day, and we make choices. But when we're conscious of those choices we're making, then we can actually check, well, is the framework from which I'm making my choices still right for me? And I think that's the biggest switch, because most of us come from a background of diet rules and dieting, and that's the framework from which we make our decisions. Whereas when you step into the mindfulness space, that's not what we're making the decisions on. It could be part of the decision, because everyone that I work with, they've got health goals. So, of course, what you're eating is going to have an impact. But just focusing on that, as everybody knows, doesn't produce the long term results. So, being mindful kind of happens, right through before, during, and after the eating process, to just observe, was that the choice that I needed right now? And, as you said, well, try the milks and see which one works for you. I generally have at least two milks in our household, sometimes three. We like different milks for different purposes, so that's okay. And we can get hung up by all the advertising and the
Oh,
scientific evidence.
yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I love science and it's really important. But unfortunately, if you don't have that background in nutrition science and also mindfulness, you can get a little bit overwhelming and it can sound very conflicting, all of the messages out there.
Yeah.
So, from adopting mindful eating, Carol, has that had an impact on your health and lifestyle in any way?
Yes, it has. So I struggle with depression, like lots and lots of people I know. And so it certainly helped. I think taking any stress out of your life helps when you're depressed. So once I got into mindful eating and really enjoying that and finding it worked for me, and it worked fairly quickly. I think I was fairly determined,
Yes.
and you had picked up in me something that I wasn't even aware of at the time, and I thought, wow, if in a 10-minute chat, it's that obvious, I need to be really honest with myself and start looking a little bit more deeply. And so all of that really helped me to set a new path. And so it helped in every way. And there were, quite a few things that I just really found. So the mindfulness bit, that the actual practicing of mindfulness was helpful. And so I've added more things into my toolkit around mindfulness.
Yeah.
And I've found that really helped me too. So there's really so many bits and pieces that I was really pleased to adopt from the program. I think it's been very holistic for me, so much more. It's not just about eating. It really was about my health and well-being. And so I think all of those things, it encouraged me to really confront every aspect of my life.
Yeah.
As you said earlier, in taking that holistic approach.
Yeah, and I think it's really important, confront in a kind and compassionate way and a
Mm,
supported way. I think it's really important because when I was first, developing the eating for you approach, I knew the first step had to be about knowing ourselves. And then it was about, well, once I know myself, I have to know how to nourish myself.
mm,
And then the third part was naturally, well, how do I then put all of this into action? How do I actually
mm,
introduce and live with change? And each of those parts are equally important. And,
mm,
sometimes we're working on different parts. Some of the things we're putting into action, some things we're still learning about ourselves.
mm,
And I know unless we take it step by step, it can become overwhelming. And I think
mm,
this is what concerns me is when people don't reach out and get the support, then they can say, oh, well, mine for eating's too hard because I have to, learn about myself. I have to know what nourishes me. I need to put it into action. Well, you're not expected to know all of that,
mm.
and that's where, as you said, the supportive community, the coaching calls and the programs can help you do that. Are there any noticeable differences you've seen, like in your energy levels, how you feel in your body, what your health tests are
Oh,
looking like? What's been happening?
definitely. Yes, definitely. So I think the most notable thing was the extra energy. I tended to be kind of an up and down person, and I think I've kind of leveled out
Great.
a lot better
Yeah.
and certainly a lot more energy. So, at times my husband would say, gosh, what's happened to you? Where have you got all this energy from? And I'm sure it was down to the program. It's helped me in so many ways. Yes, I did lose some weight, which was, one of the things that I felt I needed to do. But, I just felt so much better in my own skin. I felt more confident. I've been able to decrease my fat and skinny wardrobe. So that was something else. And I have had a couple of health challenges over the 18 months. They have been difficult because, you get put on different medications and they
Yes.
can do terrible things to you. But I think if you still honour the principles of Eating for You program, it's easy to see the contribution that those medications have,
Yes.
and how once you go off them or change them, they can you could go back to being very much the person that you were. And so I've found it really, really good.
Beautiful.
I can't praise the program highly enough. And I've told so many people about it because, to me, it was a lot about my own ignorance,
Mm.
and just to learn the basic principles of having a healthy lifestyle has been so valuable. And I find it so easy now.
And that's the most important part. And a couple of things that you mentioned there about ignorance, and just not knowing. And that's the problem. And that's why food focused programs or weight focused programs don't work because
Mm,
we're applying a solution to the wrong problem. And if we were honest with ourselves, if weight loss programs worked, then we would all be in healthier bodies. We'd be happier in our bodies. And whilst Eating for You doesn't focus on weight, I'm well aware that for some people, being underweight or overweight or going from being underweight to overweight can have huge health impacts. But I
mm,
just know that focusing on food and weight does not give you that sort of natural healthy weight that you've now arrived at. And that's the weight that you can maintain by eating mindfully, moving mindfully, and practicing mindfulness as much as you can in every part of your day. And that's what a lot of the ladies say, is that the practice of mindful eating just kind of ripples into the rest of your life. And as you said, it just makes life easier. You have more energy because you're stressing less. You're nourishing your body, not just from food, but in other ways, to replenish what we've used each day. We don't think twice about when our car is running out of fuel to go to the garage and get the best fuel for our car. But we forget we have to nourish our bodies, because our tanks do become empty and we can become very unwell if we don't nourish ourselves, properly. For us, it's really important. So, Carol, you've shared so much and I really appreciate that. Is there anything that you would like to share for someone who is quite new to mindful eating, that may be very much like yourself when I first met you, only have tried, diet, sort of more food focused programs in the past? What would you say to them to help them explain the difference?
I think for me, and I guess it's courses for horses too. But I'm a very introverted person, really, and I think for me the focus on reflection in this program has been the true gift. So there's been all of the knowledge that's provided, all of the resources, fantastic resources, all of the practical application, which was really good. But I think when it boils down to the whole program, it's you enabling and encouraging us to reflect in a really positive and supported way that made the difference to me. And
Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever taken the time to do that before.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And sometimes I explain it in this way to clients, or ladies or men, wanting to seek support, is that I truly believe that each of us are meant to be the experts of our own body. But we can't be that unless we take time to observe what's going on. And you're quite right. We need guidance to put what we see into a positive light so we can make the changes to improve our health and well-being. So reflection's really important, and I know for others it can scare them off. But I like to sort of say to people, well, the scales aren't giving you the answer. That's a form of measurement. There is a better form of measurement, and that's kind of within you. And being able to monitor your progress in a different way, and a simple way, with just some journals and reflection exercises. So, Carol, thanks for sharing that. Is there anything else that you would like to share about the program and being able to maintain mindful eating as you have for many months now?
It was just the most fabulous experience for me. And my goal always was to be healthy and fit. To me, I wanted to be, fit and healthy until I get to 80 or,
Yeah.
whenever. The quality of life is important. And as I am getting older and observe, my older friends and my sisters' older friends, I see that the choices that you make really do have a big impact. And so I am just so grateful that I got into this program when I did. And I'll be forever grateful, Sally Ann, to you for providing us such a wonderful community at no cost. The program obviously has a cost, but the community is there all the time for us. And that's brilliant. So a big thank you to you.
Oh, you're most welcome, Carol. And as I've shared before, each of the ladies who come through my programs, they put the effort in as well, and they commit to their health and well-being. So yes, I provide the steps, but you're the ones that actually put the effort in and commit to it. And sometimes I have to say, okay, just ease off a bit. You know, you don't need to be doing so much effort. Let's just take one baby step. And I think that was one
Mm,
of your sayings that you use, these little baby steps
mm,
actually add up over time, and we feel much more empowered and in control and can see our
mm,
progress if we just take those
mm,
baby steps and not try to do too
mm.
much at once. And that can be really hard because we want to fix problems, but some problems have to be fixed at a slower pace.
Absolutely.
So, Carol, thanks again
Mm,
for sharing. I really appreciate you sharing your journey with others and also offering hope that we can change our eating habits and we can maintain these changes
mm.
in the long term. So, thank you again.
My pleasure, and thank you.
Now, if you've been inspired by Carol's story, then make sure you join our free community for women on Facebook. The link to join is included with this episode's notes. But of course, please answer the membership joining questions so we know that you're in the right place. However, I understand you may have listened to Carol's story today and thought, I really want to get my eating habits sorted once and for all, just like Carol has. And if that's the case, then please book in for a free 30-minute mindful eating strategy call. We'll have time to put your personal plan together so you'll have the blueprint to take you from where you are today to how you want to be eating and enjoying life. The link to my calendar has also been included with this episode's notes. And if you have enjoyed this episode, then please let us know why it was of interest to you and subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes as well. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to sharing with you again. You have been listening to the Eating For You podcast with Sally Ann Pisk. If you are looking for additional support to enjoy a lifelong wave of healthier eating, then join me in a free 30-minute call to see if our approach is right for you. I have included the link to book an obligation-free call in this episode's notes.